Welcome back to part 8 and the long-awaited BokuAkaKuroKen reunion in my BokuAkaKuroKen Omegaverse Uncertain Future. Are you ready? Let's go then. "1:50 a.m. It was 1:50 a.m., yet none of them had found any sleep yet. Sleep generally didn't come as easy to them as it used to ever since Kenma had left, but today was even worse. In another life, we would wake up. For the past 1.5 hours, the distress they sensed through their bond from Kenma intensified steadily. At first, it was just the usual tugging in the back of their minds, increasing slightly, which was already unsettling enough. After 10 minutes, Akaashi had given up on sleep and snuck into the kitchen. Mere 5 minutes later, Koro joined him, and 2 minutes after that, Bokuto, who never slept well without someone to cuddle anyway, slumped down on a chair beside Koro. They had sat in silence, drowsy and sleep-drunken, but too worried to actually follow their bodies, commanding them to sleep. Hands found each other, fingers intertwined, and soft kisses were exchanged as a sign of silent reassurance. It helped, or at least, it did at first. After a while, the feeling in the back of the head slowly increased and became more and more front and center. Kotaro's hands around the mug tightened as he fought the increasingly darker thoughts invading his mind. For Kenma's distress to be this prominent, even with miles between them, it must be really serious. The only comparison he had wasn't a good one. Thinking back to that day only made his throat tighten. Back then, it wasn't Hinata who had called out to them, in a desperate plea for help. He was on his way home from work, while the others waited for him with dinner, and suddenly all three of them felt a rush of panic flooding their systems, stopping them in the midst of whatever they were doing. The sensation was too strong to be a simple echo of the emotion they shared through the bond, especially with such a distance between them. Because it wasn't an echo, it was a cry for help. Akaashi cried out to his mates to help him, and they followed. Of course they did. What happened today wasn't nearly as strong or frightening as what he felt back then. However, he couldn't think of another explanation as to why they could feel Kenma so strongly. There wasn't the same urgency in the feeling, but it still felt like he was reaching out to him. Go. Koro placed a hand on his gently as always, yet firmly to ground him. It's not like back then. This is different. Didn't know you could suddenly read my mind as well. The ace gave him a shaky and barely convincing smile. We are all thinking about the same thing. It's similar, but not the same there. Akaashi said it matter-of-factly, yet his hands were shaking slightly, and he didn't dare to look at them, his mind undoubtedly taking him back to that day as well. Bokuto stood up, squeezing Koro's hand reassuringly before letting go in favor of pulling Akaashi into his arms. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to remind you of that. Akaashi reciprocated the gesture, nuzzling his nose against Bokuto's neck and breathing in his scent deeply. It's okay. I thought of it myself. I understand why you did too. He bit his lip. It was similar. Too similar. He just wanted to know that Kenma was safe. He was supposed to be safe. Maybe he's having a panic attack. Koro chimed in, his nose scrunching at the thought. As much as he hated it, especially since none of them were with him to be there for him, send him, and make sure he was safe, it was still better than him being in actual physical danger. Yet, he knew that the explanation was weak. Kenma had countless panic attacks before and after they bonded, some stronger, some weaker, and it hurt them every time to see him like that. But it never felt like this. They worked hard, just like the blonde Omega himself, to help him with his anxiety. It had gotten so much better over the years, until that night, 9 days ago. Ko, do you still remember the last time he had won this bad? When you came home early to check on him? The black-haired alpha looked at his mate, his eyes gentle yet raw with worry. The other nodded slowly, face half buried into the dark curls of their omega. Yeah, he was a mess. I was too, probably. It came as such a shock to see him like that again so suddenly. It was really bad. His grip on Akaashi tightened as if he was afraid something similar would happen to the other Omega. Do you think that's when you found out? It was. Nothing else made sense, and they knew that, but none of them ever actually said it. There was something about knowing what it did to Kenma that was so much worse than simply being aware that he didn't want to be pregnant. None of the alphas was able to shake off their guilt about that just yet, and feeling what it did to Kenma didn't exactly help. Yet, they had to say it. There was no way around it. This was the reality they had to face. Timeline-wise, it makes sense. I have no doubt that such news could send Kenma panicking like that. Akaashi sounded calm and collected, but at the same time he held onto Bokuto tightly, his scent being the only thing keeping him grounded. The alpha hummed in agreement. His head perked up as he sensed Kuro's scent souring. He gently reached a hand out to the other alpha, rubbing his wrist over the other's neck. Kuro leaned into the touch, embracing the comfort it brought. That didn't last long though, when suddenly Kenma's distress intensified again. That's it. Akaashi sat up abruptly, freeing himself from Bokuto's arms. With determined steps, he crossed the room. Where are you going? Bokuto watched him confused, while Kuro was still frozen in place. His fists clenched impossibly tight until the knuckles turned white. He pressed his lips together, held in place by his own panic, threatening to overtake his thinking. We're going to check up on Kenma. He was breathing heavily while hastily putting on a jacket. It's enough. He needs us. He's calling out to us. We can't. I won't leave him alone with this. He needs us, Ko. Tears gathered in his eyes as he looked at his mates, pleadingly. I know. Okay. Tetsu? He gently shook his shoulders and kissed his temple. We're going to get Kenma. It's gonna be alright. He leaned his forehead against Kuro's, allowing the mask to slip for just a second to reveal his pain, before putting on a determined expression. they could do this. It's gonna be alright. We'll bring our kitten home and then everything will be alright. Koro nodded slowly and accepted the hand Bokuto offered him. Suddenly, everything happened in a rush. They scrambled to put on their shoes and jackets while Akaashi was already waiting outside. None of them cared that they were still in their pajamas, or that it was the middle of the night, or that it was an hour-long ride to Hinata's. All they could think about, all they could focus on was getting to Kenma. Everything else could be sorted out later and... Keiichi? They froze. The world stopped. Now before you come at me, it's okay. This is a double feature. In less than an hour, the next part will premiere to continue where we left off. I hope you are excited, and I hope you liked this part, which if you did, leave a like. It really helps me out. And subscribe for the next parts, though again, the next one is already in an hour, so look on the channel, it will be there. Yeah. Tell me what your favorite quote from this video was though, under the pinned comment. It would mean the world to me. Special thanks to my nerdy Nekos, you are the best. Here are my other social media for you to check out, and don't forget to click at the other videos in the end cut. Yes, have a wonderful and amazing day. And yes, that is a command.
Wake up, really gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.